We have something of a highly classified nature to show you.
I was reading about the splitting of the atom for the first time. There were some concerns that it would be a kind of unstoppable chain reaction.
A series of destructive electrical storms has wreaked havoc across the globe.
They did the experiment anyway.
The surge seems to be the result of some kind of antimatter reaction.
And I found that a very arresting fact, that there could be somebody out there doing experiments that might threaten everything.
We're doing big things up here, real big.
Release of antimatter could threaten the stability of our entire solar system. All life could be destroyed.
I met Ethan Gross freshman year of college, and I was told that there was a young man who was in film school with me who hated me. Instantly, that piqued my interest, and I thought, well, that person has a good point of view. So I met him. He said, yeah, I don't like you. I don't like you. You're always talking in class, and you're very loud and a very annoying person. And that was how the friendship began.
I was shy, he was loud, bombastic. He'd always be correcting the teachers. And I thought, just shut up, dude. But then I eventually realized when he would correct the teachers, he'd be correct, literally, usually. And I'm like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about.
They'd written this script, Ad Astra, which was really a quite ambitious, science fiction epic inspired by films like 2001 and Apocalypse Now, that deals with space travel, deals with technology, deals with, who we are in the future, the question of aliens and do they exist.
Good morning to our astronauts up there on the International Space Antenna. Sure is a beautiful day. Just perfect to try and contact our distant neighbors out there in the heavens.
It's a film, I think, that has its roots in 70s films, is James's vernacular seems to be born from, meaning that it's contemplative, it unfolds. Then we have big moments of action or duress. And then it hits this slower reveal.
My dad was a pioneer. He sacrificed himself for the search for intelligent life.
Ad Astra means to the stars. It's Latin. But the actual line is per aspera ad astra, which translated it means through hardships to the stars, which I thought was very beautiful.
As the film starts out, we learn that his father was considered a hero in the program. He had gone farther than any other astronaut.
What can you tell us about the Lima project?
He was on a mission and disappeared in the process, went off the map. The ship disappeared approximately 16 years into the mission.
Well, he is a lost man. I think that's pretty much who Clifford McBride is. He's a famous astronaut. And he's the leader of a project that's looking for signs of intelligent life elsewhere in the universe. And the project goes horribly wrong, and he becomes a dangerous man.
If communication cannot be made through his son, then all other efforts must be undertaken to destroy the commander.
What happened to my dad? What did he find out there?
He meets Colonel Pruitt, Donald Sutherland's character, on Earth, and then they take a lunar shuttle together to the moon. And Pruitt is somebody that knew his father and knew him when he was a boy.
Hello, Roy. I'm here to go on this trip with you. Keep my eye on you. I was supposed to be his surrogate father.
Roy? Yes, Colonel. Look at this. The big blue marble.
Never ceases to amaze me.
But he's a failed father figure, isn't he? Because he can't go on the journey to Mars or to deeper space. You want him to go. You want him to be Roy's protector in some way, but he's weak. Can't do it.
You have to go, Roy. Go. Go!
I'd always wanted it to be that Roy didn't really meet anybody. I mean, he meets them, but he doesn't know them. I mean, that's sort of the point. It's really about his solitude, about how alone he is, and about how that's how everybody wants it. Although the more connection there is, the more risk there is, the more risk to the mission, the more risk there is to him personally. And so he meets these other people, but you catch only glimpses of them.
McBride, I think we might just have ourselves a son of a legend on board with us, team.
They're oblivious to my purpose.
On Mars, Roy meets Helen Lantos.
I know who you are.
She is sort of a flip side of him. She represents somebody who has also been orphaned by people on the Lima project. Unlike Roy, she didn't really bury that.
And I think for many years now, she's been seeking answers about what happened. And she uncovered the recording of Clifford McBride talking about there was a mutiny on board.
I'm disclosing a tragedy. They mutinied, committed acts of sabotage, trying to commandeer my ship.
A lot of people get killed, especially those who would want to give up on the project and return to Earth.
Without doubt, I did punish the innocent along with the guilty.
He has no intention of returning.
We will not turn back on this quest.
She wants to confront this man who is the son of her parents' murderer. Your father murdered my parents. That monster threatens us all. Now it's your burden.
She's been dealing with it and living with it throughout every day of her life. And Roy sees that in her, and he begins to understand the significance of what his father has done.
Can you get me on that ship?
I can get you to the rocket. After that,
I will deal with him.
It's destiny, right? You've got to destroy the Lima Project, confront the father in the outer reaches of the solar system.
Roy, is that you?
Hi, Dad. I'm taking you back.
This is a one-way voyage, my son.
I think the idea of closure is nonsense. It doesn't exist. I lost my mother when I was pretty young, and I don't have closure. I don't get over it. I learned to live with it. That's a very different thing. We learn to live with terrible things that happen to us. I don't get over it. I think he gets no real answers except that he has to move on with his life.
I never cared about you or your mother or any of your small ideas.
I know, Dad.
The ending of this movie, we went through a lot of discussion about it. People aren't used to a science fiction movie in which you build up towards a great conclusion, and then the conclusion is, you should have stayed at home. It sounds anticlimactic, but the anticlimactic nature of it is, to me, climactic because it tells you an important story. Space travel and exploration is very important, but it's more important not to forget about what's at home.
The crew examined all the data, discovered no other life out there. They were all alone in the known universe.
Now we know. We're all we've got.
Okay, everyone. Here we go. Pictures up. Let's go.
You know, this film holds some stunning set pieces, if you want to call them, action pieces.
Go!
James specifically designed these as a delivery system, really a movie about self and discovery of self.
You can have all the scale and all the scope. You can have the best photography, the best score, the best actors, and all the technical genius that you want making a film, but that doesn't really mean anything. And if it's not about something you care about, it doesn't matter. So I was trying to do the deepest dive I could on where I was in that place in my life at that time. I keep coming back to that same idea. Get personal, get smaller, more inside, more interior, more about what it is you're going through. And then in the end, whatever people think about it, good or bad, it's out of my hands. I tried to be as personal as I could. That's my obligation. That's my only obligation.
Roger, all Roger safely. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. One, ready to go. Data good. Coming down. We have all good.
Ready? All right, going up. Here we go.
Yeah, you go up.
Push.
Going the wrong way.
He's funny, he's convivial, he's relaxed, good at what he does.
there's a very gentle focus on set.
He is just so smart about his work. I adored him, and it was a delight to go into work every day.
I am ready to go, ready to do my job to the best of my abilities.
I learned a long time ago not to write a part for a specific actor, because every time you do that, you don't get the actor. So I was very pleasantly surprised that Brad Pitt decided to do this.
A self-destructive side. That's what she used to say to me. I survived. I should feel something. James and I, we've been friends since the mid-90s, and we've often talked about doing something together. With this film, he really surpassed himself. You could feel it was a very personal story to him.
I was a lunar astronaut for Spacecom for 31 years. And I came to the realization out there A voyage of exploration can be used for something as simple as escape.
We're dealing with a very contemplative character where certainly connecting with others is not necessarily in his skill set. He's quite capable on a tower if it gets dangerous, but when it becomes intimate, he's challenged. And that is set against finding out that his father may still be alive.
So close. I love you, my son. Clifford is the father, Roy is the son. They haven't seen one another in a long time. The only relationship they have is the memory of moments when Roy was a child. It's not much of a relationship.
This is Major Roy McBride. I'm communicating through a secure laser transmission on Ursa Base, North America, Sector Mars. His father left when Roy was a teenager, like 16, 17, and then disappeared and went off the map. Dad, I'd like to see you again. And it brings up feelings in Roy that he thought he'd put away in its right place a long time ago.
Maybe in some ways, Roy would be the perfect person to travel in space because of a lack of interest in relating to others.
I will not rely on anyone or anything. I will not be vulnerable to mistakes.
We had done a lot of research on what you might call schizoid personality tendencies. Those kind of people are going to be very sought after by NASA to go to Mars because you have to be in close confines with the same group of people for a year and a half. That'll be psychologically quite taxing for many of us.
Your psychological evaluation has been approved.
The irony, of course, being that were they to come upon something truly astounding, they might be the worst person to talk about what it actually means for the human species. Perfect example would be Neil Armstrong was the absolutely perfect person to do what he did. But when he came back to Earth, didn't speak a whole lot to the metaphysical meaning of what it was like to step on another celestial body outside the Earth.
I'm being pulled farther and farther from the sun, down the same dark hole. I think there was a nice juxtaposition between Clifford and Roy character in that sense, because he comes from an ilk that my father's generation, where we don't complain, we don't brag, we do what we do, and we move on. Roy was seeing the shortcomings in that and is trying to evolve because it's just not working for him anymore. It's not working. He promised me that one day I could join him in his pursuits. What did he find out there? Did it break him? Or was he always broken? I must accept the fact that I never really knew you.
Most astronauts depicted in movies are intrepid and charismatic. We wanted to make a film which was quite subjective, where you see the world through one character's eyes, so you see others fairly dimly. We could do all the exploring we want out there, but the inner life of a person is just as strange and unknowable.
This is a guy who is excavating the depths of his experience as a human being, asking some very difficult questions of himself and wondering what kind of person he is and what kind of person he wants to be.
I so appreciate that, because the way I grew up, I see my people, as pioneer stock, as survivors. We take pride in being capable. Cut our arm, we sprain our ankle, we break our wrist. We don't complain, we get on with it. We hardly even think about it. I've been, trained that way, because we just don't deal. The downside of that is that sometimes we fail to take inventory on how we feel on the interior.
Brad Pitt. Well, he's an interesting figure because he is a movie star with movie star looks and charisma, but he's not entirely comfortable with it, which is a great thing, and you feel it in the work. In other words, a movie star is confident in being the center of all attention, and that becomes almost like an invariably conflict-free person in your movie. Brad doesn't have that. Brad has a conflict inside of him. And that was perfect for the part. It's perfect for the character.
24? One more 24. It's just because he gave these great looks.
What makes Brad a unique producer, actor, and some kind of beautiful combination of both, a sort of a third thing, a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of situation. You have a person who just has a really relentless attention to detail I think a really strong work ethic, and really is probing for like the truth of a situation.
They never told you what happened to him out there, did they? It's very much his film. He's at the helm, and you feel that focused, sort of kind energy permeates the set.
And he is, by the way, an excellent actor. Very subtle, wonderful at taking directions that you might give him and then expanding them into something else. He's immensely talented, but it's hard to know that because it feels effortless.
For James and I, it was really a discussion of what is connection, especially for a man. Where does strength really come from? What we were striving for is that our strength comes from actually being vulnerable. Maybe it's where we're heading as men, maybe not, I can't say. But these were the early discussions that I found really compelling about what he was after with this piece.
I viewed Roy as really an extension of me and of everybody that I know, which is headed somewhere, not exactly sure where, and thinking he knows what he wanted, maybe even getting it, but there's something seriously lacking. There's a hole that needs to be filled inside.
We talk about space as the void. I mean, really what we're talking about is death. We come in alone and we go out alone. To confront that, to be able to sit with that. Most of us spend time trying to avoid that.
Initiating manual override.
The challenges of being a human and dealing with our connection to humanity. Are we spending too much time looking outward, really running from ourselves and running from each other?
Let me go, Roy.
And ultimately, this is the conclusion Roy comes to, and it's really the message of the film, that we can't keep looking, that we need each other.
Good luck.
Virgin Flight 6092 to Tycho Base Moon, boarding now.
The banality of travel. There's no reason to think that that should change in any way. It's not going to be some jet set, Jetsons, glamorous vision of the future. It's what a pain in the ass it is just getting in line at the airport, getting your ticket punched.
Hot towel.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for flying with us.
Dealing with your luggage.
Major, we've been expecting you.
And when you fly on an airplane, the airline gives the jump seat to a pilot who's not on the flight but wants to go somewhere. They fly for free, they just flip the jump seat down and he joins them.
Comm check.
Loud and clear, sir. Welcome aboard the Cepheus.
I'll be hitching a ride with you if that's all right.
Yes, we were alerted.
That should be reachable by just reaching up.
Which one, this?
There's all these panels.
You mean from seated?
Yeah, from seated.
James Gray's been fascinated with space and space travel his whole life, so there was a sense of verisimilitude, not just the zero-G and the things that people know, but also things that are just almost like in between the lines, but give the film an authenticity. That was based a lot on the research that James and the teams had done. It's not just a fantasy world.
On our way to Mars, the very last stop. We had two joining us.
It'll just be one, I'm afraid.
Well, we still like you, Major McBride.
On the moon, he meets the crew of the Cepheus, who he spends a good deal of the movie with, too. And those are a great bunch of actors and a great bunch of characters that Roy has mixed feelings about.
The film takes place 100 years in the future from now. Missions to the moon, missions to Mars are kind of like commercial air flights today. So they do 2 or 3 flights a day or a week. And I play the captain of this vessel that's trying to get to the moon, Mars, and then beyond.
I play Stanford, who's first lieutenant with the United States Armed Forces Space Division.
It's more pressing a letter with a corresponding number down here, and then that starts the sequence. Correct. Cool.
He's engineering background, mission guide, knows what he has to do, and pretty much does it without complaint.
I play Lieutenant Lorraine Devers, a navigational specialist and geologist. James and I gave more backstory to my character, and she's identified as high-functioning autistic.
Welcome aboard, sir.
That created a whole nother complexity to her background and the choices I was able to make for her as a character.
Frank.
Yoshida's medic is kind of interesting because in the script he's written a certain way, but then James puts his touches on it during the shoot. He's kind of this strong, silent type, I think. We have a particular mission, and then Roy kind of joins us.
They're totally nondescript astronauts whose job it is to simply ship cargo to and from the moon to Mars. They don't know what's going on.
This is an urgent update.
Commence, slow down, booster 3.
We get this distress call from a Norwegian biomedical vessel floating, as it were, unmanned, or at least they're not answering signal.
Major, this is a mayday. Stopping is protocol. Any supply craft can answer that call. The mission is the priority, Captain. Do you not hear what I'm saying?
He doesn't want us to stop because he has a time constraint on his mission.
And they're like, what's your problem? We don't know what you're talking about. It was this idea of isolating the character, making him not just alone, but a loner. Someone who, in a way, prefers it. And actually, if you can't express things to people, if you have to keep things a secret, that's a huge cause of anxiety. Not being able to reveal yourself to anyone or anything. That's tough.
Vessel 9, we're responding to your distress call.
The Major, McBride, he accompanies the captain.
Quiet all around, let's roll sound.
Yeah, let's go.
And does a spacewalk to board this other vessel. And then all hell breaks loose.
Tanner?
The way my character meets his end is with this baboon that ends up eating my face off and attacking my jugular.
That was our way of saying the most random possible thing can happen to you. Your foundation of reality off the Earth is no longer of any meaning. This primate is in zero-G attacking him. I mean, it's insane.
I'm about to go in here, and they're the wonderful hair and makeup people, Nana Fisher and her amazing crew, about to turn this pretty little face into baboon brunch. This stuff can be tedious, but they make it as easy as possible for me.
Some of the stuff for the face was amazing because the scratches were like what the baboon would do with the claws there, and the attack to the jugular was particularly gruesome.
When James is blown away by something, I'm learning that he just laughs. It could be the most serious thing.
Every joke in the book was hurled at me. Hey, you got a little something on your chin.
It looks awesome, you guys. Oh my God, it looks awesome. There it is. Didn't we say it was baboon brunch on a face?
I guess people that spend enough time on sets get used to seeing these images, but it was nonetheless disgusting. And she also built this nub of a hand, and she talked to me about the research that went into that. Apparently, all primates instinctively go for the digits, and it's a way of disarming. As bad as the face and the jugular looked, Brad made a comment about this, that was the most disturbing image with my hand kind of swiped across his vision.
Stay calm. All right, we're ready to try one with pulling Donnie through, guys?
I had to hang there for hours and float around.
3, 2, 1, go!
The rotation direction doesn't matter as long as
It's just getting into the right orientation as you're heading to exit.
Yeah.
Rob Alonzo, the head stunt guy, he's like the zero gravity stuff that James is trying to achieve in this particular film is off the charts.
I had never done any wire work before, so they explained everything. They told me what some of the issues might be. When you're upside down, you might feel this. Let us know if you feel this. I mean, it was just, you knew immediately you were in good hands.
Just find your balance point, Bobby.
Okay.
They have these amazing sets. One's horizontal, one's vertical. So they match the zero-G by hanging you in the vertical set.
And action!
You're on wires and all these kinds of particular vests. You can attach the little D-rings anywhere, so you can hang it not just vertically, they can hang you sideways, hang you all kinds of crazy positions.
Majors, do not proceed any further.
Being on wires and doing zero gravity is like a dance, particularly when you're working with other actors.
Stunt set. Here we go.
There's one scene where there's 3 of us, and we're in the vertical. We're all hanging straight down. So it's a great dance between us, the riggers, the camera, the timing, everything, so there's no collisions that happen. That was thrilling and scary and exciting and fun all at once.
Brian, my stunt double, all the guys were phenomenal. I did like 3 days of rehearsing just in the vertical set, just practicing all the maneuvers. And then the actual fight sequences with Roy, they were really fun. It's pretty physical, pretty exerting when you're upside down, hanging, looking down at the cement floor from 3 stories down. At first, it's a little daunting, but you get used to it after a while. Roy's mission, our mission, they're kind of polar opposites. I mean, we're kind of there to end things, and he's trying there to kind of patch things up. So the Cepheus crew does not meet a happy ending.
Because of my actions, I regret to inform you, all crew members are now deceased.
This particular section is meant to portray the dark night of the soul when you are left with just yourself. And you have to sit with your regrets and your losses and your longing for your loved ones. That devolving of the psyche, which hope could either lead to a death or a resurrection.
Now we're set. Okay, let's roll film.
Rolling.
I will tell you a joke that astronomers tell between themselves. They ask you why the dinosaurs went extinct, and they say because they didn't have space travel. Which kind of says it all.
I was 4 years old in 1971. The Apollo 15 mission was televised quite a bit. I was just mesmerized by the fact that I'm watching 2 men walking around on the moon live. I think I knew from that point I either wanted to be an astronaut or wanted to be involved with NASA.
As a child watching Star Trek, watching Star Wars, I mean, that played a role along with the Apollo 11 mission, inspiring me to become an astronaut.
When I first developed a habit of reading, I happened to be living in Roswell, New Mexico, and there was an orange tree in the backyard. I spent the entire summer sitting under that orange tree and read all of Clarke, Heinlein, and Asimov, and have been a dedicated fan of science fiction ever since.
There's this great interplay between science fiction and science reality. It's a back and forth that inspires both. Jules Verne wrote about traveling to the moon way before Neil Armstrong was ever born. And it takes a vision like that because some of us engineers aren't the greatest visionaries, you know?
And cut!
Ad Astra starts out, although we are in search, there is this specter hanging over, what if we're all alone? What if we are all alone? Then what?
This is going to be very dramatic, trust me.
James Gray is extremely research-oriented, so I think for him it was really important to just be inside of the details, and they'd give it a sense that even though it's in a near future that's completely speculative, it feels like it could really happen.
Working with NASA has been spectacular, and working with the scientists of the space program has been just tremendous.
Yeah.
The exchange of ideas and where they think things are going and where they have been.
You want to get the details right.
I mean, I've asked them every question known to man, and I've called them up at 2 in the morning and said, hey, would this actually happen? Can I get away with this story point?
So we did good?
Oh yeah, this is unbelievable.
Fun, right?
The way you have it laid out is really incredible.
Good.
You did amazing.
As long as it doesn't look like every other science fiction movie.
What he was looking for in terms of realism was the physics. For instance, could you fire a gun on the moon? The answer is yes. A bullet has its own oxidizer, comes right out of the barrel. Another example is, can you talk to somebody on Neptune from Earth real time? Unfortunately, you can't. You've got a considerable delay in terms of hours. Also, what would blood look like in zero gravity? Any fluid in space in zero gravity will tend to become a sphere. It's physics of how those things will look.
Robert's obviously a genius in all this stuff because he spent many years doing it. And you guys are genius at being actors, so you get a few hours to learn what you can so you have enough knowledge to work through it.
It was very instructional to me, and they're also fascinating people. There's a reason why we say, well, something isn't rocket science, because rocket science is pretty clever.
Launching on a rocket is hard to describe when you're sitting there. It's kind of like you're sitting on top of a rocket. And boom, you get this big kick in the pants, and you're being shot straight up. And by the time you pass the top of the tower, you're going more than 100 miles an hour straight up. And so that gets your attention. But when you're up there for at least a month, you wake up in the morning and it's normal that things are floating. And it's normal that you fly like you're Superman to go off to have breakfast.
I was anxious to explore the fact that we, as human beings, we're not really meant to be in space. You can't go outside, the sun can't hit your face, you can't feel the breeze. That's madness. It's not how we evolved. We're not designed to be floating around in a suit outside the atmosphere. We're never going to be built for that. And that is going to have a cost.
I could tell you, of having left the Earth, that there's no place like this one, and how important it is that we preserve the unmatched habitability of this planet. And a lot of us now are looking at maybe making a sustainable human presence on another planet in our solar system, and specifically the red planet, and thinking about all the wonderful utopia that it might be. And I think that we have to consider, at least for a moment, what if we take our human frailings along with us?
You're going back to Earth now?
Can I help you?
I've only been there once, as a child. I was born here.
Almost all space travel movies, including some of the great works of art in the genre, offer a somewhat positive view of space travel, which will somehow result in meeting aliens.
James mentioned this quote to me: either we are not alone in the universe or we are absolutely alone, and either scenario is equally terrifying.
And I thought, well, I've never seen a movie about us being alone.
That was good. That's the shot. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Can I see 36, please? Let's get him down.
Whether or not we're alone is one of our fundamental questions, not just for those of us that are in space exploration, but just for all of us as humans. Through theology, through science, we want to know, are we all there is, or is there something else out there?
As the human race has done since the beginning of time, we are always looking for the next place to explore. Because space is infinite, we now have before us this infinite frontier.
That's the ambition of a human being since time immemorial, from the first caveman looking up at the stars. No, to be able to figure out what we figured out so far. It can be for the great benefit of humankind, but it can be a great detriment.
Humans have made a lot of technological progress. I think one of the questions the film asks is, are we making other kinds of progress alongside that? Are we making emotional progress? Are we making spiritual progress? All of this exploration and all of this technological majesty, what is it getting us, and are we better people?
Sometimes the need to look outward is more about trying to avoid looking inward.
I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be my dad.
Your psychological evaluation has been approved. If you wish to obtain a complete
All right, we're last looking, everyone. Let's get ready. All right, everyone, here we go. Clear the visor. Let's get ready. Victor 54, take 4.
The job of the director, I think, is to set the context through which other people can create and do wonderful things. So I've tried to encourage as much in the way of ideas as I possibly could.
Let's try that. All right, pictures up. Ready.
This film looks astounding. It's absolutely gorgeous.
James is really visual. A lot of our dialogue early on was me sending him images, him sending me images, and just understanding exactly what we were telling each other without any words.
Kevin Thompson, who's the production designer, did a brilliant job, but his brilliance also was a challenge for me because there's not excess space, there's not room in these crafts. They're all built for like military grade tolerances. That was the idea.
Dealing with space and space travel brings out like the kind of kid in all of us, and I think that there was a bit of a giddiness at times of like the worlds we were creating.
I'm doing a little pruning. It was looking a little healthy, too healthy for us. It has to be a very sad garden.
The attention to detail was unbelievable.
This is what it's come to here on the Lima project. They had one little seed from 10 years ago, and they're being very careful with it. This is tonight's dinner, right in here. If you look back to the 60s and see the space program stuff, it's not really much different than it is today. We're projecting ahead and saying that it's still very utilitarian and functional.
Welcome aboard the Cepheus. On our way to Mars, the very last stop.
The Cepheus is where we spend most of our time in terms of script pages, so we put special attention into every detail.
We tried to base that as much on the ISS. Nothing in there for amenities, just everything is about the practicality of it, you know.
This cockpit was inspired by military jets and also the space shuttle with a little bit of our own interpretation, but we wanted it to feel extremely real. Every sign on every button is actual signage that works.
I wanted every switch to have a purpose so that if you wanted to land the space shuttle looking at the cockpit in the movie, you could do it.
All the switches up here, all the controls in the console, all the screens are as authentic as possible. From the painting of the panels and the molding of the ship, each piece of set dressing is based entirely on real technology. Now we're in the command module. This is where we have 2 jump seats on that side and 2 jump seats here. We've taken the wall out so that we can have access for the camera. And then right behind this door, this is the equipment module where a lot of the action takes place.
And you know, we built the sets twice because you had a horizontal set, right? And then in order to do the zero gravity stuff, it was a vertical set.
We duplicated this and built it twice. So we could do stunt rigging and hang the actors and have 0G. We had to match the set dressing exactly. It's meant to be that there's no up and there's no down.
Just felt like doing it.
Now we're in the airlock, directly behind the equipment room that we were just in. These are these doors here. And it's directly in front of the last room in the Cepheus, which is the fuel chamber, the farthest back section of the Cepheus, sort of the roughest mechanical room or the boiler room of the ship. This is the side where Roy McBride climbs up to show you how he gains entry into the ship on Mars.
Those spacesuits are fascinating. You have a cooling system, you have materials that expand and contract from pressure, you have a computer. It's a whole world inside that spacesuit. The weight of a real one is 30 pounds. We did cut it down to 15, but it's pretty authentic looking.
When you think about costumes for a science fiction movie, it's one of the great challenges because the clothing gets dated instantly and, you know, you want to put the diagonal zipper or something on the shirt or whatever, all of a sudden it dates the movie in some way.
James didn't want it to be costumey, and that was very important for him. And I had to think about how to solve that.
I remember I brought this book I have showing how engineers dress, you know, incredibly simple. And he kind of went, oh, I see.
So the job was to find a way of making it banal and ordinary, but not today. 100 years from now, I don't know if I could ever get there, but not today. And that was very difficult because I knew the results would be totally invisible.
He said, if I'm good, no one will ever notice the costumes. May I say, I think it's one of the things I'm really happiest with in the film. You don't notice the costumes at all. People are wearing what they should be wearing, which I think is really hard in a science fiction movie and quite perfect.
And cut. Bingo.
Our main characters are very prescribed. Military, astronaut. There isn't much room for invention, shall we say. But it's the background that sets where we are. That was the most difficult thing, to evolve looks for people that don't even speak. They just walk through. He felt that that would be a way of showing that things don't change. And then when we got to Mars, the more removed they are from Earth, the more they lose track and they get a little crazy. They're all wearing real clothes, but put things upside down, one on top of the other, giving them a feeling of just having lost it.
We've tried to approach this again with an eye towards as much authenticity as we could. We saw Mars, which is the sort of last manned outpost for our film, and what an outpost, scientific outpost in Antarctica is today. A few years ago, I had read about an installation in Antarctica where they have these parties. They all let go, they all dress as they want. So I want you to think of yourself as by-day computer scientists or geologists, and now you're letting loose a little bit. So with that, let's rumble. Thank you so much.
We chose to shoot on location for all of the Mars sets, but we didn't know what it should look like exactly. We knew that it was probably going to be underground. We ended up mostly at a power plant that had odd-shaped spaces, stone and concrete. Because of the technology today with lighting and all these great LED panels, we created these grids of light that the color could be dynamic. You could alter the color just a hair in this direction or a hair in that direction. So it affected the colors of everything, the costumes, the furniture, the rugs, and the feeling.
A little brighter. There you go.
We had a fantastic director of photography, Hoyte van Hoytema.
Which is kind of the coolest name you've ever heard, isn't it?
Hoyte has a whole crew who are very dedicated to him and to the movie. He goes in there and he is the floor commander. I joked that I said they were the cult, and they're amazing, and they have a great sense of humor about the whole system and the whole way that he works, and it makes going to set very rewarding.
I'm doing this for a very specific reason. Oh, I see. No, somebody's wearing a cut, right?
And I was very grateful for that on this. There was a lot of technical stuff that he had gone through already doing Chris Nolan's movie Interstellar that I just didn't know at all.
Well, what's we gonna figure this out?
But during this sequence, the ship is kind of repositioning as we do this, right?
Right.
What Hoyte was able to do with this is beyond my understanding or explanation. And it's only someone who's made a lifetime of studying light and refractions and color temperatures and things that are well beyond me.
You have to select new blue because we went dark.
It was shot on film, not digital. James was striving for an analog kind of feeling. His idea being that it feels more truthful to us instinctually.
As 35mm goes, it's quite grainy, what we've done. I love grain. To me, it's like the brushstrokes in a canvas. The photography is astounding, it's jaw-dropping. And in a way that I didn't even realize until I went to the digital intermediate, because then you start to see all the stuff you didn't see before. The latitude of film is crazy, all the stuff in the details, all the work he did with color, and it becomes astonishing. It's a movie of extremes and very strange color schemes. The science of it dictated a lot of what we did. Here's a fact for you. If you were to take your hand and dig it into the sediment of the moon, the lunar surface, and you brought it back to the Earth, it would be almost black, the surface of the moon. But every image you see of the moon, it looks like it's light gray. You're almost even white in some of these shots because the surface of the moon is overexposed. The brightness, the reflection of the sun on the moon's surface is so extreme, and the sky is as black as anything as you've ever seen. Mars would be, from the photographs that we have seen from Jet Propulsion Laboratories rovers, not quite so red, actually, a little bit more yellow than red. And Neptune, you'd get only blue light. If you'd have any light at all, we're actually cheating. You'd probably be considerably more dark than it is in the film, but you know, obviously you have to see something.
All right, ready, roll down.
This film lives by its sound design. It really makes the difference in this as far as the feelings. It shouldn't be so in your face that you recognize it, but it should provoke feelings of anxiety, you know, whatever we're needing to portray at this juncture in the film. And this one is rife for it.
Liftoff. We have liftoff. 7:51.
The approach is to do very practical sounds, which are the spacecraft at the edge of basically breaking apart, almost like creaking ocean liners, right? Combined with as abstract as you can get, using the actual sounds that have been recorded of Jupiter and Neptune. And when I say actual sound, I know there's no sound in space, but what there is electromagnetic waves, which can be translated into sound.
Well, the team brings everything. They make me look much better. It's great. I've loved it so far. I mean, I'm only halfway through and I'm already kind of getting sentimental. what is that noise? I was like, what are they doing? You know, Stanley Kubrick once said, trying to direct a movie is like trying to write War and Peace in a bumper car on Coney Island.
As we approach, some of you can see the Grand Telescope Array near the Atlas Crater. Pay them a visit. Maybe you'll be the first to spot an extraterrestrial in the stars.
You must know every inch of it down there.
I figure I do. I used to care more about the stars than the Earth. I think I figured it might get me closer to God. What it got me was a heart attack. So I pulled back. I learned very quickly that man's enemy up here is not a person or a thing. It's the endless void. Your mind is tested like never before. But that void may prove more terrifying than you can imagine. Anyway, we have a job to do. Keep our focus on that. Get our rocket ready and go to Mars.
Are you worried?
A little bit.
But you've been so much further.
That's why I'm worried.
I'll be okay. I'll try to call from the moon as soon as I get there. Hello, love. What are you doing up?
Can't sleep. I have a sore throat.
You have a sore throat.
Schoolitis.